In this video, I'll share with you my passion for books and explain why I think books are more powerful than anything else. Not necessarily better, but precisely more powerful and more beneficial. The beneficial part is the easiest to explain. The one about power is a little trickier, and that's where it becomes compelling. First, the benefits. There's no need to listen to an expert to understand that reading a lot is more helpful to your mind than spending the same time watching TV. Reading books keeps a person's mind active, whereas watching films and television is passive and does not require a person to use their imagination. Reading improves your vocabulary, grammar, and general cultural level while decreasing the likelihood that misinformation will be absorbed, as it's so often the case when watching news on TV. Those facts are largely admitted, no discussion. But when it comes to telling a particular story, what are the differences? Is it better to read it in a book or to watch it on a screen? This time, there's a case to discuss. It's always tempting to compare a movie to the book it's taken from, but it's a lure. In reality, the comparison doesn't stand. Contrary to appearances, we're talking about completely different worlds. You will always have something more and something less in both the book and the movie. We often hear conversations like, "Did you see the film?" "Yeah, but the book it's based on is much better." In fact, this can't be true. A book is not better than a film, it's just completely different things. Each one has its specific capabilities and features that the other can't offer. Those of a movie are obvious. It's the direct impact of pictures and sound, the real-time action, the music-driven emotional ambience, and so on. But in the case of a book, the specific advantages are somewhat less evident, although they're more significant in the end, and this is where we speak about power. A book has no rival for depicting the abstract, things that can't be understood through sole pictures. In a movie, it's not so easy to explain what's happening in the head of a character if there are complex thoughts and not just some obvious reactions to a straightforward situation. When it comes to explaining the entire chain of thoughts of some character, it becomes very difficult. Same thing for setting up the stage and context. How to detail, for instance, a long and complex history behind a place or a character. It's almost impossible unless there's a constant voiceover to explain things or endless flashbacks, which would make a very long and clumsy movie. That's why the film director needs to try other ways by setting up different situations, mostly through dialogues, to make the spectator understand what characters think and why things are like that. But whatever the efforts, a movie scene remains limited. Your own imagination is incomparably broader. It's much more efficient to convey abstract information with text rather than images, even speaking ones. Books are more powerful than any other media to tell a story because they connect directly to the mind. There's nothing to influence your perception of what the author depicts aside from his own words. Between the author's mind and your own, there are only printed letters. It's difficult to imagine a better way of communicating topics that refer to character psychology. Let's take the case of a very depictive story like The Lord of the Rings. At first glance, it seems easy to transcript its world into a movie because Tolkien provided a large number of details to each scene of his story. One would think adapting it to the screen is just a matter of adequate settings and actors. Wrong. To understand the real story and not just watch beautiful images, you need to understand the world and the history of its different civilizations. In Tolkien's world, civilizations have a deep and consistent history. Places are not just here for some obscure reasons. Characters have a complete ancestry. Everything has its own history. And at the basis of Tolkien's world is language. A lot of ancient languages. All these things are essential in the book and impossible to render in a movie, even a very long one. You'll catch glimpses of it at best. Also, characters in books cannot be ruined by bad acting. Harry Potter or Frodo Baggins will always act better in your pure imagination than on screen, whatever the talent of their performers. Any film version of a book also tends to be dumbed down in order to suit a large audience. The other power of a book is that the reader is master of time. While watching a movie, you can easily miss some part because it's a passive activity and you're not always focusing. And if you're in a cinema, you can't even use the rewind and playback option. But with a book, You decide the speed at which the story goes. You can pause for a minute or a day. You could read again the most delightful parts. You can continue reading whenever and wherever you want. No matter what modern technology can offer, it will always be easier to read a storybook than watching a movie on your mobile phone. A book also has physical aspects a movie can't offer. You can handle it, caress its cover, feel its pages flipping. You're definitely owning something. You have the feeling of owning the story, because all you need is what you have in your hands, whereas handling a DVD, a remote control, or mobile phone, it's not exactly the same. You can also refer to maps, references, side notes, glossary, and many other contextual information. And last but not least, the sentimental value of a book goes way beyond that of a DVD, not even speaking of streaming content where there's no material at all. A book is like an old friend. Time affects it like it affects people. It's brand new, and then it ages. It matures. It becomes a treasure. There are various editions, some of which are hard to find and very expensive. They are much more collectible than DVDs, even though film producers try to artificially create collectors. Books don't need any help to become collectors. They just have their own history. They are ancient by nature. So as you can see, there are many advantages of buying books and reading them. To sum it up, a book makes you think much more than other media, and that is its true power. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, and see you soon for another trip in the wonderful age of ink.